Hey, it's me, DJ Mish Easy of Thursday's show Gaze. I have a special treat for you guys. This week only, Monday, January 5th through Friday, January 9th, tune in to hear interviews from your favorite filmmakers featured at the Palm Springs International Film Festival. The 26th Annual Palm Springs International Film Festival starts January 2nd to January 12th. What better way to start off the new year? Once again, make sure to tune in the entire week of Monday the 5th through Friday the 9th at 4 p.m.
You're listening to KDHS, and we have got Pamela Shaw of Lucky Stiff on the line. She plays Rita Laporta in this comedy at the International Palm Springs Film Festival. Hi, Pamela. How are you doing today?
Great. It's a gorgeous day. I'm happy to be here and all good.
Lucky Stiff looks absolutely hilarious. Would you tell our listeners about your character, Rita Laporta? I hear she's a woman armed and very crazy.
She's armed and extremely dangerous, but like many dangerous people, she's actually a scared baby underneath it. She's absolutely in love with a man, not her husband. Because of that, she won't wear her glasses, and she's legally blind. So she's also one of those hysterical people that goes from 1 to 105 in about a second. And when she doesn't get her way, or if somebody pisses her off, or where she thinks she's being ignored or not seen. But of course she can't see anything. So she's vain, she's crazy, she's emotional, she's hysterical, but she has a tender heart underneath.
That's wonderful. Was it difficult channeling Rita, or did you find her easy to portray?
Unfortunately, I found it easier than I thought. She is crazy, but it was such fun because I guess the whole thing was to find the underneath of her and what, I hate to be all actor talk, but what motivated the crazy behavior. And once I saw that she felt ignored and she was really needy underneath all that behavior, then it was easy to find and a ball to play. I think it would have just been not easy to do or not fun to do if she was just the one note, aggressive, assertive, blah, 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 blah. But it comes from her feeling that she's not going to get her way and she's not going to be seen. And she's not 20 anymore, So
right.
She has to really, really fight to be seen as the showgirl that she always was. Because those days are ebbing away.
And so, Lucky Stiff, can you tell us a little bit about the plot line for that movie?
This young guy in kind of a nobody and a nothing and somebody who's very ignored lives in the town in London. And he gets a telegram that he has inherited $6 million. This is in the 70s, so it's even a really lot of money from his uncle that he didn't even know. So there's only one thing. In order to get the $6 million, he has to take his uncle's body to Monte Carlo on the vacation that he always wanted and never had. And if he doesn't follow everything to the rule, the money's going to go to the uncle's favorite charity, which is the Universal Dog Home in Brooklyn. Once my character finds out about it, I'm in love with him, he's mine, the money's mine, blah, 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 blah. So I'm after it too. And I drag along my hapless brother, who's the complete opposite of me, Jason Alexander, a ball to work with. I drag him along. I'm always getting him into trouble. He just can't stand my hysteria and my all over the placeness. I use him as a human shield, really. Then the whole thing consummates in Monte Carlo. Chaos and riotous things happen. And it's a musical.
Right.
So we're all singing.
That's so funny.
It's very madcap. It's very fun. The director really has a thing for like 70s films like What's Up Doc, so he loves the genre, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's very champagne and guns, but in a fun way. And it was before cell phones, so you couldn't just say, oh God, oh no, that's that, or emails or something. So you had to kind of go there and get on planes and get in cars and race around.
A complete adventure of a film, I'm sure.
It is. Really think it's fun.
What a great cast to be a part of. Was it your first musical production?
Well, it was my first film musical for sure. I had actually done the part in a play, in a couple of productions before that. The play started off-Broadway. I never saw it. I wasn't in that. It was my first movie musical for sure. And just yesterday, Rob Ashford got the Variety Award for Into the Woods, and he was talking about how he was so happy this genre was happening and what a great thing it was. And it's been like 14 years since Chicago. Can you believe that? So I went up to him afterwards and introduced myself, and I said, thank you, because I don't think I would have had a job if you hadn't done all those movie musicals, made it advantageous to do it, I guess, or I guess that's what they were thinking when they did it, when they decided to put Lucky Stiff on screen. The screenplay is written by Lynn Ahrens, who wrote the musical. She's so clever. You know, she's the woman. It's all like Broadway royalty. She wrote Ragtime and Once on This Island and Seussical and Rocky. She and Stephen Flaherty are Broadway royalty, as is Chris Ashley, who directed it, who directed Memphis on Broadway.
So according to the Internet Movie Database, you have been pretty busy lately with all of your productions going on. Can you tell us what other upcoming movies fans can look forward to seeing you in?
Yeah, I'm actually about to go to Florida, a wonderful small indie film. I guess it's not just right after this, but a couple weeks. I got a couple weeks in between. And it's called In Between Days. It's an indie film that shoots in Cocoa Beach, wherever that is. I think it's near Orlando. The part's like a cougar-y, tough agent of the lead who is having a sort of 40-year-old crisis of creative confidence. And I'm like pushy, but only pushy when the young men aren't around, because other than that, I'm otherwise occupied. So that's what I'm doing. God knows when it's going to come out. It's just shooting in 2 weeks. So.
Ever been to the Palm Springs International Film Festival?
No, it is the best festival ever. I've been to several other, the last couple months with Lucky Stiff, and I got to say this is the best. It is such an honor to be here. Everything is run so beautifully. The people are fantastic. There's a shuttle bus. But more than that, it's just like the quality of the films. I've just been having a great time, and I feel very honored that our film is here and that I have an opportunity to be here. Really, I'm thrilled, and the weather ain't bad, or at least today it's gorgeous.
Are there any films that you're looking forward to seeing at the festival?
Absolutely. Oh, I've seen great ones. So far, I saw Match, which I adored, and 5 to 7, and Iris, which is an incredible documentary. Going to see Learning to Drive tonight. The Humbling. Looking forward to seeing that. I want to see a lot of stuff with directors, that I don't know who are here and can meet and greet. I mean, that's part of what's exciting about it. So I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I can't remember offhand that I'm seeing, but those leave out. Something called She's Funny That Way.
I do really appreciate you calling in, letting us have this interview with you. When I got the list of who I was able to interview for the spot on our show, I was so excited that I get to interview an actress. I definitely had no idea that I would be able to have that kind of presence on the show. So I'm super grateful that you were available to this.
Oh, my total pleasure. I mean, just wonderful talking to you.
Tune in Saturdays, 3 to 6, Definitions and Discussions.
I know your iPhone's cracked.
Excuse me?
That ain't cool.
What?
What about that sticky keyboard?
Excuse me?
That ain't cool. I bet you think those pictures are gone forever. That ain't cool.
Oh my.
The doctor is in town.
What doctor?
The data doctor.
Data Doctor, Computer Sales and Services. Veteran family owned and operated. 760-913-7664.
You're listening to KDHS 98.9 FM. I'm DJ Mish Easy, and I'm here with Mark Titus, director of The Breach. Hi, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. It's a beautiful day today.
Can't wait. It's sodden and gray and pouring here in Seattle, so I can't wait to get down there tomorrow and part of the festival.
What time are you going to be arriving?
We get in around 11 a.m., get settled, and then start doing the festival thing tomorrow.
Fantastic. Could you tell our listeners a little about your film, The Breach?
Absolutely. The Breach is a love story for an animal, for a fish. Didn't know if I could actually make a film about the love of a fish, but it came into my head and it wouldn't leave. I started it back in the spring of 2011. We just finished post here summer of 2014. Essentially, The Breach is a story about our relationship with wild salmon. It hasn't been a very good one. Humans have had interaction with wild salmon for thousands of years in Europe and East Coast of the United States and here in the Pacific Northwest and even in California, throughout California, there was a vast run of wild salmon. In each of those locations, we basically either overfished them or dammed their rivers so that they couldn't get up to spawn, did things that basically didn't allow these creatures that thrive perfectly in their own wild environment. We kind of put an end to that. Essentially, we're trying to do better now. The story of The Breach showcases some things that are causes for hope for wild salmon and their recovery. And there's also sort of a cautionary tale about a potential project here in Alaska in a place called Bristol Bay that's the largest last wild salmon run on the planet. We've got a chance to basically make amends for what we've done, for the last thousands of years with this animal.
Wow. How did you develop such a passion for salmon?
I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, in the Seattle area. My dad took me out fishing starting at the ripe age of 2. Got a picture in the film of my dad and me holding up my first king salmon. I fell in love with this creature and the mystery of it returning every summer without fail. Then I actually ended up working in the commercial industry for a while in Bristol Bay on shore in a processor during my college years, my college summers. Then in my 20s, I spent an entire decade working in Southeast Alaska as wilderness Alaskan fishing guide. That sort of sealed the deal. There really is nothing, in my mind, in the natural world that has such a complete story of sacrifice, self-sacrifice like wild salmon.
I love how you're talking about salmon. It's amazing. I personally love salmon. It's my favorite fish to eat. Something about eating salmon just makes my body feel really good. It's almost as if there's some sort of craving in my body for salmon sometimes. I know some people have that for steak. I definitely have that for salmon. So when I was reading about you, I was like, this is amazing. I'm so grateful because I have no idea what farmed salmon means for consumers. Could you educate us a little bit on that, on what, if we take away the wild salmon, what that means for consumers?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm a storyteller, and the movie is, from my point of view, it's not an activist. I'm not an advocate for one affiliation or another. The story, from my point of view, and the things that I discovered have led me to tell the story in such a way that I came to the understanding that basically human beings in each of the locations we've talked about before, about Europe, East Coast of North America, Pacific Northwest and California, and now Alaska. In our past, we have wanted to use the land for mineral rights and for energy and for logging and for all sorts of things. In a lot of cases, wild salmon and their rivers where they need to spawn have been in the middle of all those things, and they've sort of taken a back seat to other interests, like I described, mining and logging and farming and irrigation, all those sorts of things, and overfishing, frankly. Humans in the early part of the 20th century came up with an idea in hatcheries that, hey, look, we can just make more fish, and then we can keep on doing the things we're doing. So we don't need to worry about protecting their spawning habitat. Fish farms and salmon farms, I think, have come out of that same mentality that, look, we need to feed a hungry world. And so I don't think that the people who propagate these fish farms believe that I don't think they've got any kind of a ill will, ultimately. They're trying to provide a food source and trying to make a living. However, what we know about what fish farms do in the wild is that they are not a sustainable source. They are not a ecologically friendly environment. In fact, they're just the opposite. Whereas wild salmon, in their natural state, when they return to their rivers, actually feed and make everything grow in those environments. They bring back nutrients from the sea, which feed human beings, and they feed 130 different species of animals as well, insects, all the way up to bears. So when you're eating wild salmon, you're eating the nutrients from the ocean itself. When you're eating farmed salmon, you're not necessarily doing that. You're eating the pellets that people are feeding those fish. It's a different animal completely.
And a whole different vibration as you're consuming it. You're basically consuming something that was manufactured and domesticated, whereas wild salmon, you're going to be being a part of the earth, basically, being a part of the entire cycle of what the globe can provide for us. I appreciate you bringing awareness to this, for sure.
Absolutely. Beyond my pleasure. In fact, that's kind of our central mission and our call to action. You know, a lot of the screenings that we've gone to so far, including in Ireland, where we won Best International Documentary for our world premiere, folks afterwards were moved by the film, and they said, what can I do to help? What can I do to help propagate wild salmon? And ultimately, our call to action with that is eat wild, save wild. It seems like it's counterintuitive. If you're eating wild salmon, you're hurting the system. But what you're actually doing when you choose to eat wild salmon is you're saying with your dollar and with your vote, by choosing wild salmon, that you appreciate this as a food resource, and therefore you want the places that they need to spawn, their habitat to be protected and be preserved so this food resource can keep coming back in perpetuity.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. On the Breach Film website, it is mentioned that you explore a number of perspectives for this film. Historical amnesia, just that phrase caught my eye. Could you elaborate a bit about what you have found the historical amnesia to be in regards to the salmon?
Wild salmon have been in great numbers across the planet for many thousands of years. What we know about human interaction in Europe, specifically in the North Pacific and the United Kingdom, what is the United Kingdom now, and the Scandinavian countries, and even into mainland Europe, folks tended to use rivers as their own resource extraction sources. So they would make dams, they would make weirs, they would overfish and catch too many fish. The salmon slowly disappeared. Same thing happened on the East Coast in North America, where settlers from Europe came over, created a new colony, and the lessons that happened in Europe with regard to how salmon were decimated really weren't realized and learned because folks did the exact same thing. They clogged their rivers with dams, they logged, they had sawdust choking up these rivers, and they overfished the salmon and the resource, and eventually those salmon went away. To a lesser extent, it has happened here in the Pacific Northwest. Again, we didn't learn from those lessons of the past. So when we're talking about historical amnesia, that's what we're talking about, is the lessons from the past that we can't destroy a salmon's natural habitat that they need to spawn and propagate their young and want to have this fish in perpetuity. It's just, you can't have both of those things.
Can you educate our listeners on what the Pebble Mine is?
Sure. The Pebble Mine is a proposed project near Lake Iliamna in Bristol Bay, Alaska. It's in southwest Alaska. It's a vast resource of copper mainly, and gold and molybdenum. It is also a very poor ore body, and what that means is you've got to extract a lot of material from the ground in order to get at the ore body that you want. You got to take a lot of stuff out and then filter that through to get the minerals that you want. This proposed project also happens to be in the headwaters of one of the world's largest wild sockeye salmon run on the planet. And folks that are in Bristol Bay currently that have the majority of the work up there, which are commercial fishermen, are thinking that it might not be a good idea to have the world's largest open pit copper mine, or at least North America's largest open pit copper mine, in the headwaters of a resource that brings $1.5 billion to the U.S. economy a year and 14,000 jobs up and down the West Coast.
Absolutely. I definitely can see where the concern is coming from that. You mentioned that with the salmon being protected, the wildlife ecosystem being sustainable as it is, and how it is able to help from insects to bears. Are you passionate about any of those other wildlife preservations in Bristol Bay?
Absolutely. Wild salmon feed everything around them in the ecosystems that they return to. So not only do you have a commercial fishery in Bristol Bay that supports 14,000 jobs and $1.5 billion to the American economy, but you've got a sport fishery that has some of the largest, if not, well, I don't know if there's a place that has larger rainbow trout in the world. And the reason they're so big and the reason those rainbow trout are so plentiful is because of the salmon. It's directly because of that. We're talking about rainbow trout into the 36-inch range, which is just, almost unheard of if you're a trout fisherman.
Very phenomenal.
It's incredible. It's a reciprocal relationship. The salmon come back, they spawn, the trout feed on those eggs, they get to be vast in number and size, and that also brings a light footprint but large dollar value to the Bristol Bay economy with sport fishers who come to the lodges and to the guides services that are up in Bristol Bay. In 2005, it was over $60 million just to the Bristol Bay economy itself.
Wow, who knew that little beautiful fishies could bring so much to the world? and to just bring so much to wildlife and bring so much to our own human pleasures, if you want to call it that. What day and time will your film be showing at the Palm Springs International Film Festival?
We have 2 screenings of The Breach this coming week. On Wednesday the 7th at 10:30 in the morning at the Palm Canyon Theater. We have a second screening on Thursday the 8th at 1:30 p.m. at the same theater, at the Palm Canyon Theater.
Right on. Mark, it has been fantastic having you on our show on KDHS. Once again, you're listening to DJ Mish Easy with our special series of filmmakers from the Palm Springs International Film Festival going on in Palm Springs right now. You're listening to 98.9 FM.
Hey, it's me, DJ Mish Easy of Thursday's show Gaze. I have a special treat for you guys. This week only, Monday, January 5th through Friday, January 9th, tune in to hear interviews from your favorite filmmakers featured at the Palm Springs International Film Festival. The 26th Annual Palm Springs International Film Festival starts January 2nd to January 12th. What better way to start off the new year? Once again, make sure to tune in the entire week of Monday the 5th through Friday the 9th at 4 p.m.